Way better than camper.
Alright, part 2. Let's just get back to it. Get those insulation walls done. No time to waste. Let's roll. So what now?
Beautiful.
Oh, this we gotta finish. We gotta finish up a few things, I guess.
Yep, clean up some of the lines, decide what I'm gonna do with this spot, and then use my saw and my router to cut everything out.
What are you doing with the saw and the router? Specifically,
So the circular saw I'm using just to do all the really straight edges because that's easier than trying to make a straight edge for the router. The router does really good with curves, but it can, for 3/4 inch plywood, it takes multiple passes, and it can jump and want to go its own way. So for really straight lines, I use the circular saw. And then for the nose and the hatch, I have a guide that I put on my router to keep it a constant distance away. Kind of like how the carpenter square has notches in it. So.
How much space do you want between the window and this next cutout? We've been doing about 3 inches from most things, so like 3 inches of wood from the door to the next cutout. Where our bulkhead wall is going to be, we got like 3 inches on every side of each side of that. We have a part where eventually will be a counter in the galley. We're not going to build the kitchen in the galley this year. We just don't have time. So it'll be empty spot, but we've kind of plotted out where we think we'll put that counter. So we got kind of about 3 inches there. Do you just want another 3 inches on that side of the window?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know why we picked 3 inches because we did. It seemed like a decent amount of wood. And then enough. We tried not to go in all these seams to also have, maybe it wasn't like a full 3 inches, I think 3 inches on one side and 1.5 inches on the other. We tried not to kind of cut through any seams. The window will, but anytime we could avoid it, we left the seams intact and gave it wood on each side, thinking it'll give it some strength and support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the method to this madness.
Why not?
Or the madness to this madness. The madness to this method? Oh, I like that one. The madness to this method.
Is that the name of this video?
Should be. The madness to this method. All right. So I've just learned that this little can of stain is very important, very precise unit of measurement, as James has been using it to round out the corners of the squares we're marking out. So he's marking out a new square that we had to adjust and asked me to fetch the can of stain to make his precise corners for his router.
Okay.
All right, how's it going?
It's loud. It's good. Cut the door out first because that was the fun part. And now trying to be efficient. So going through with my router first and doing all the curves that I got to do with that through the first pass. Make a lot of sawdust.
First pass.
Yeah. So I can't run my router through 3/4 inches of plywood very easily. You either burn up the bits or you just can't control it and get nice lines. So you should really only do, I think I've seen like 3/16 of an inch at a time. So I'm splitting it up into 3 passes.
So you just make the bit. You cut a little deeper each time.
Right. Yeah. It's a router I can set the depth on. So.
So right now you're just kind of doing a first pass, resetting your router, second pass, set the router, third pass.
And that'll go through all the way to board on the third pass. So then after that, grab the circular saw and do all my straight lines and then watch all the boards fall out.
Gotcha. And then you'll set up your templates to do the outside curves.
Yeah.
And you'll use a jigsaw to do the notches for the spars.
That is correct.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll leave you to it. We don't own like 2 routers. Even if we did, I'm not sure I want to deal with it.
This is my burden to bear.
Yes. Circular saw, jigsaw, sure, fine. Router doesn't look fun.
No.
All right.
Okay, so we cut out all the main circles, and now I got to cut out the curves here for the Fredericks modified hatch and for our front nose piece. And my initial cut around the outside wasn't the smoothest because I had to freehand it with the router. And so this time coming in, I know where my line needs to be, but I want a straight edge to run the router against. So I have some 1/4-inch scrap plywood from another project that I am going to use basically just to find the best curve around my curve, nail that in place, and then now I have a nice smooth piece for my router to follow. And I won't get stuck on every little bump and jolt and mess up that I did the first time around. So I already did that with the other wall. Do it now with this wall, and then at the end, if there's any inconsistencies between the two, I'll use trim cut router bit to make them flush. And perfect. And it's going to be perfect. This is going to work. It's good. Alright, so I did just a few really light gauge nails, just brad nails basically, just to hold it in place, make sure it's got the shape I want. Not going to run the router tonight, just put the kids in bed, it's getting late, and I can't make that much noise right now. So just prepping it right now, and then we'll cut it tomorrow.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of our big work day. I am working on tracing the insulation that we needed to cut out. So we were first trying to figure out how to do this. With these squares, there might have been some bad language involved of trying to like clamp these underneath and trace the outline. So we went with putting the cutouts on top, which allowed me to arrange it, use the most of our insulation. It's a little wonky, so I'm going to work on doing that for this side. What we learned on this one, we made sure we marked all of the outsides. Because, here, let me show you. The insulation we bought definitely has an inside and an outside. And what insulation is this, James?
It's just 3/4 inch foam insulation, similar to what we got on the floor, but the foil backing on this is supposed to make it better for moisture barrier, and also it was in stock.
It's what they had, so that's what we bought. So we want to make sure the foil is on the outside. So that wall we did not mark our boards, so I had to try to figure out which side was up and which side was down. This side we got smart and marked our boards, so it was easier to figure out. So I'm going to trace these and then cut them out with a knife. James is working on kind of trimming up the pieces I cut for the other wall earlier and get them wedged in there. I cut them out and I made sure I cut them a little big because we really wanted them to be snug. So yeah, just working on trimming those. And I think that's what we'll do tonight. And then we'll call it a day. So, yeah.
Yay. Long day.
Long day. We did it. They're all in. We're covered in styrofoam, so you can see. We've listened to terrible squeaky noises for the past little bit. All right. But pieces are in both sides. So, tinfoily side will go out. This is our passenger side wall, and that's our driver's side wall. And we're going to go to bed.
So tired.
Well, after we clean up
Oh yeah.
all this mess. Have a good night.
Okay, so it's the next day. I've got my straight boards or smooth boards on the edges for my guide, ready to cut out the piece along the nose and the piece along the rear with my router, and then I'm going to take the jigsaw, cut out some notches for the spars, set my router depth to what I need, got my guide that I'm going to use to follow that edge, and should be pretty straightforward. Wish me luck. Hey, it's the next night. I got most of my cuts done on both sides of the insulation walls now, and I've basically laid them one right on top of each other, and now I just want to go around, use a nice flush trim cutter, router bit, and basically go around and just make sure the nose piece and the section for the hatch are basically square between each pieces. So when we go to line things up on the actual trailer, they'll be straight in line and not offset, and hopefully just make life a little easier for me later on. So hopefully quick cuts and call it a night and move on to the next step.
Can you say, we're building a teardrop?
We turning made a poopy.
That's not it. Can you say, we're building a teardrop?
I can't say that.
No, okay.
We're building a camper.
Perfect.